What's good, everyone? Welcome back to day 2, night number 2 of week 2 here for the ANZ HGC. I'm back. I hope you've missed me because I've missed you, and I've got Vandy. It is the dream crew here, ready to bring you 2 fantastic best-of-3 series for all of your ANZ Heroes of the Storm action. Vandy, how does it feel to be back once again?
Dude, it feels so good. I think you and I are just going to be so excited. It's been a while coming. You've been overseas. I also had a little bit of a PUBG tournament on the side, so I'm super glad that we're reunited. And what better way to kick things off tonight? We've got some exciting games, Kimmy.
We do. The Wizard crew are going to be bringing you all the magic, all the action, and all of the ANZ shenanigans that we have come to know of. What is that schedule? Let's bring it up right now. 2 best-of-3 series, as I mentioned just before. It's going to be Aztech taking on the boys of Mindfreak, a brand new Mindfreak as well. We're looking to see if they can continue their dominance, transponding from phase number 1. And then Crimson, the big dogs, the only team able to take any games off Mindfreak, coming in at 2nd spot last season, up against the newcomers from the Open Division, Pleb to Pro. What have you made of these 2 teams, Pleb to Pro and Aztech, so far, Vandy?
Aztech, I mean, they've had a couple of changes, and I think they're stronger for it so far. I still have yet to see them clash against some of the bigger names, so we can really start to gauge like a power ranking. Pleb to Pro, they've showed some really nice promise. In fact, they managed to win their promotion game, if you will, to get that last spot quite convincingly. So they're in a good spot. But since we've had a couple of roster swaps and changes, I mean, a lot of them were discussed in week number 1, we're really just starting to see where the teams start to lie with their new rosters.
And that's definitely going to be a big talking point for sure, with both Mindfreak and Crimson replacing one member apiece. Mindfreak coming in from week number 2, all rest and recovered from the mid-season brawl, but with Penta announcing his departure from the squad, they've now got Fat94 playing that tanking role, and they brought in Madhax as their new support player. So Vanilla now playing the Assassin. It's going to be a bit of a swap up there, some growing pains, I'm sure, but we're going to come to know if the class, the establishment, the namesake of some of the achievements that these players have on Mindfreak is enough to get them through. It was business as usual for them last week up against Xylophone Dudes, but that's an easy opponent. Up against Aztech, a far tougher challenge. They're going to be no pushover, but with the momentum that Aztech have found so far, especially being able to take a game off Crimson, then there's a lot to look forward to.
There is a lot to look forward to, and I think that's a really nice point that you bring up. It was business as usual for Mindfreak, but they were up against an opponent that we expected them to win with. Xylophone Dudes, I think they've had a lot of upheaval. In fact, that was almost like a grudge match, if you will, because a player, Madhax, has actually gone over to join the Mindfreak roster, who was previously a part of Xylophone Dudes. So it's really interesting that a lot of the players that we're seeing, they're chopping and changing. And in terms of Mindfreak, this is going to really give us an insight into how they're going to perform into this current season.
Absolutely, Vandy. It's going to be an interesting one to say the least. We always talk about, the separation really of the skill level between ANZ teams, but then just that disconnection from us and abroad. You saw how Mindfreak fared when they played from a domestic level, completely undefeated. The only team able to take any games, as I mentioned before, were Crimson. So in such a dominant streak, you think, they must have a good shot when it goes overseas. They go overseas, and they were in the group of death right up against 2 BlizzCon winners. Last year's mid-season brawl winner. It was a tall order for them. The only game they were able to take and the only complete series was up against the Chinese team. So it's very interesting to sort of see how far away we are from the global competition, but when you come back home, also just how big that gap is.
It's really hard when you have that kind of momentum behind you in ANZ, and even to win the Intercontinental Clash, you're like, okay, this puts us in a good stead. Then you come up against the big dogs, your NA dogs and EU dogs, and you're like, okay, this suddenly isn't feeling as easy. And you got Korea over there that no one wants to really talk about, that kind of like glaring, looming kid in the corner. You're like, oh, geez, don't know what's going on there. And yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, with Mindfreak as well, we were hoping to see maybe a couple more games because they've gone from strength to strength, but we still struggle on the international scale. What I'm hoping, though, is that they always learn every time they go over. Like, there's always glimpses of things that they picked up and things like that. It's just how are they going to apply it back home?
Absolutely, Vandy. And we're going to find out as we're going to kick it off with Dragonshire, the very first game for your day 2 entertainment coming into the very second week of the ANZ HGC. We're going to start off here with a Garrosh ban. No surprises there, especially on a map like this. You are looking for control, especially in between mid and bottom lane. That's really where your focus is going to be. The top lane, not the biggest priority, so it's all about trying to establish an early lead on those rotations. If you can find some kills, well, that's always going to be led by somebody with hard engage, such as the Garrosh and as that Maiev. They're going to open up with the Genji, not going to go for the Malfurion. We saw a lot of Genji and Malfurion priority at the mid-season brawl here. And I think the most exciting thing for me, Vandy, is the fact that when we get to this caliber of team, you're going to see there's a far greater strategy deployed compared to comfort picks that maybe some of the other teams lean towards.
Absolutely. They can counterpick and they can play their strengths towards that map. And in terms of also denying picks and responding accordingly, that's something we do start to see out of these teams. With Aztech, we know that, I guess, in their old roster, they did have a little bit of limitation in terms of what hero pool they had. This new roster, though, it's looking quite good in terms of the experience that we've got a lot of the players bringing. That Genji pick, as you said, no surprises there. He's a very strong first pick, and he doesn't really give away too much of your draft. In fact, the only thing that it might just indicate is that, hey, we're looking to dive a little bit, but that's not guaranteed. It's not really going to reveal all the cards.
Really is not going to reveal all those cards. Once upon a time, that would have been Genji being played by Fat94, but now him on that tanking role. He said in an interview actually before, if I had to do a role swap, it would be onto tank, because then I can just command, I can control, I can be the first one to rotate on through. So it's be quite exciting to see how things go on there. But the Blaze and Johanna, two fantastic picks there, in the sense that, one, they have fantastic wave clear. They have the bunk, obviously, which is still on the old patch with that 40-second cooldown, and it gives you the ability to shut down massive attack damage. That's prioritizing the Genji. What does this mean? Malfurion is still available, pairing that exactly with the Jaina. You're going to de-innovate for the Jaina. She can be a little machine gun with all her damage. It does give you the ability to slow down the engagement that both Blaze and Johanna will be looking to do.
It really does, and that ability to kite as well is going to be very, very devastating in terms of keeping them at bay and really limiting what they're able to bring. Johanna, it's not going to be too hard in terms of stopping her because she can use that iron skin, but it's exactly about that skimmy, that kiting potential that you've got, and also having Blaze in that top lane now. We do know that he's going to be a hard target to gank. So pretty much you also do want to pick someone with that survivability. Otherwise, you're pretty much outplaying yourself. It does leave a global open, however, in the form of Dahaka. And something weird that I've seen kind of crop up in ANZ. I don't think we're going to see it on this draft, but Faustad has come back. I don't know if you noticed it as well. He's back.
Are we talking in ANZ or just on a global stage?
An ANZ currently, not in the global stage. That's why I said it's a weird and wacky ANZ flavor of the month. And I'm expecting, because we always see a couple of teams, especially the ones with comfort picks, I'm expecting we might see a couple of birds. Not expecting to see him in this game, but just an interesting little twist I wanted to kind of discuss. That Malfurion as well, you said, pairs so nicely with the Genji. When he's being nice and mobile, you can keep the regrowth onto him. And also, it just plays into what Genji wants out of a healer.
What's interesting, really, where they went with this banning phase, because they could have targeted that solo lane, as you mentioned, going towards that Dahaka to try and make sure that they would not ever be in a situation where the rotation could come through with that global, with that brush stalker, to force that a 5v4 situation and try and really capitalize on those shrine phases. They've decided to go for the Mirrodin, so denying not only a reliable source of engagement, the Stormbolt makes it very easy for Jaina, Genji, and Malfurion to then follow up with some damage of their own. But also just, denying more dive, catering to the idea of what the Genji primarily is looking to achieve. They could have gone, like I say, for the global. The Faust is an interesting one. I've seen a lot of Korean teams play with it. The biggest thing that I got, the biggest takeaway, I suppose, from the MSB was we tend to veer away from the ranged, like Faust, like Phoenix in the solo lane, because it just makes us very weak in team fights. Yes, we can dominate the lane because we have that ranged advantage. But when it comes to later phases, we aren't so beefy, we aren't so tanky, we can't survive. So they are going to have a few considerations, I suppose, there, Vandy.
Absolutely, and I love that you bring that up, because that is the ANZ twist and flavors that we see, the melee heroes always being our go-to, and in fact that's been probably the most common meta we've seen here, where you've got your main tank, then you've got the bruiser, and then we've got just the two assassins in your support. It's not really playing into that. Sometimes I have seen like 3, so 2 bruisers instead of having 1 more assassin, but it's still that same kind of combination. As you said, that also then shies away from having the swisher. So really we've seen Thrall drop off because of that, and also Malthael not being played as much. So exactly right, Skimmy.
The Hanzo ban is actually a really strong pick as well. We saw a lot of that come out at the Clash, where you are going to be looking to try and engage with either that Jet Propulsion to condemn or the Blessed Shield, and the Hanzo in the backline with his massive Dragon Arrow will find infinite value. But Phoenix and Thrall scream a lot. They really do scream a lot of power, in the sense that you want as many slows with Phoenix. Yes, that was my next point. The synergy. Phoenix has a kit which is really amplified by slows in general. Blaze with his oil spill, Johanna with her mini condemn and Bless Shield to follow things up with, and Thrall. Based on what we're seeing here, you have to imagine it is an earthquake. A touching point for myself and producer Crisis in Christchurch, but we'll push past those little hurdles. We've been through hell and back. So both teams, they haven't revealed too much, but this is really A-grade drafting so far.
I'm loving Aztech's draft so far. It just screams CC, and also that front line. How are you going to get to the Phoenix? He also is quite mobile in the sense that he's got that warp away. Genji, however, he can dive in and become a problem for Phoenix. But looking at this draft now, the Stitches is a bit of that interesting play. So instead of going like, we're going to dive to you, we're going to bring someone to you. And the Dahaka picked up for the global. I like to see that. If we can't really beat them in terms of that team fight, let's split them up. Let's make their team fight weaker.
Stitches it's an interesting one. This is an old school for Penta, right? You know, whenever he needed to get himself a win, he would unleash it with the Stitches to make things happen. It can really sort of spring to mind here that if you're looking at what Aztec have so far, such a strong team composition. You got the engaged potential of Johanna and Blaze. Phoenix is going to be very, very safe in that back line. And Frau is going to be this formidable opponent. So if Genji gets a little bit too aggressive, going to get shut down. The Karazim is that bit of that flavor, I suppose, in a supporting role. Not going to have the most output compared to Malfurion, but that isn't the sole goal. It's looking to try and isolate a target and kill them, ideally with that 7-sided strike.
Exactly right. The 7-sided strike can be so strong in terms of also, if you do need that get out of jail free card, similar to Genji's X strike, you can just activate it. Yes, sometimes you might not get the damage, but it keeps you alive, and then also you can buy time to proc another heal. So you become quite slippery in that regard as well. Interesting pick. Because Karazim, he's very, very niche. But looking at the rest of their composition for Aztec, I do like it. Mindfreak, however, it does excite me. As I said, once we saw that Wombo, the Dahaka, I feel like was a very, very good pick. And also Ryu on that, we've seen him just dominate, especially when he has to play something quite macro or micro intensive.
That he will be indeed. It's going to be two very different styles of play. The execution is going to be in favor of Aztec, I would argue, where it's going to be down to the ability of Mindfreak to find picks with the hook and then find desirable team fights with their global that Dahaka can emit. Jumping into game number 1, it is Dragonshy. Thank you for week number 2. That's where we are bringing all this action for. Vandy, looking at these two different teams, anything that really spring to mind for you? Any sort of favorites going into this?
I think I still do side with Mindfreak. As I said, I am a fan of Aztec's favor, but I mean, Mindfreak, just because they've changed out a player, I don't think it's really going to stop that little wrecking ball from happening. And another thing that I've noticed from Aztec as well, they're very, very melee-centric. You've only really got the Phoenix for that range damage.
Well, we are jumping into game number 1, kindly brought to you by McDonald's Australia. Starting with the team on the left, it is your ANZ Sweethearts, the favourites with the boys from Black and Blue. Led by team captain Fat94 in a new role on the tank as Stitches. John playing Jaina. Madhax, the new boy, on support for Malfurion. Ryu on Dahaka. And Vanilla playing Genji.
And the boys in red, the boys from down under, we've got Azog playing that Johanna, Doubt on Phoenix, Altivian playing Thrall, Shrek on Karazim, and Superfish on Blaze.
It's already at level 1. Arsenal synergy for Phoenix here, looking to really emit some burst potential. So you get 3 shots with your repeater cannon. That's the close range. And then you can switch to the repeater cannon and switch away from the repeater cannon onto the phase bomb. Bang! Massive burst damage. So keep your eyes peeled on that one there. That's a first blood before the 30-second mark of Andy.
Look at how much damage they were able to pump out, and also that crowd control scheme. That's something you need to respect, and this is exactly how Aztec's composition is going to work. It's really all about the team fight.
It really is indeed. It's a scary team fight to say the least, and you can tell that Mindfreak are definitely aware of that factor, hence why they've gone for that Stitches, hence why they've gone for that Dahaka to try and play around in a different style of play. They can't really go up against this team in a 5v4 situation, and with the Thrall sticking to this 4-man, there could have been an idea where Crash Lightning would have come into play, but he has stuck to the true and tested it is Echo of Elements.
Yep, Crash Lightning was the flavor of the month for a little while. Then with a couple of tweaks, we saw some variation once again in Thrall's build. I do like that by Altivian. I feel like, yeah, Crash Lightning would have been alright, but still difficult to stack unless he was really going to commit to that 4-man, which so far they are doing.
Oh, the engage potential is there. Vanilla does use that Swift Strike to get out of harm's way. Fat94 brings them in with a hook. Both teams here, starting off at a minute 30 in, are going to look for just some objective control. The Shrines are spawned. The Giants have been acquired on either side. But when it comes to those rotations, Aztec will command that, and they're definitely making Mindfreak aware.
And also the wave clear that they've got, it's quite easy. Phoenix, we know he can even just fill that solo laner requirement if needed. That's just how good his wave clear can be. So by keeping him there, you can already see Giants, they're non-existent in that bottom lane. It does come down to these rotations. We do know that the death timers are quite short in terms of this. So with the way both teams are playing, I don't expect we're going to see a Dragon Knight too early.
Hook doesn't land, but the root was ready to follow if it had indeed. Level 1, going for the increased range on Frostbolt here for John, meaning that he's going to go for Arcane Intellect. So you've got 2 different talents to really give yourself some mana. They either go for the Globe Quest, but based on the aggression and the early game strength that Aztec have, he's decided to go for the second option, so reducing down some of the potential damage that can come from clipping, and going for the safer option, just clearing waves to get your mana back.
Exactly right. And it also means that he'll always have that mana on hand in terms of that team fight, which will make sure that if Mad Hacks wants, he can innovate other targets. You do have the Malfurion, so as you said, the Globes might have been the nicer option for John here, but it's the safer option, the easier option, because you don't need to stack it up. You get instant value by locking in Arcane Intellect.
So still no kills, as we saw the initial one happen at 30 seconds into one, but have I spoken too soon? Is the Caster's Curse real? The 4 men engaged, 4 boys rocking on up. And that's a second kill, just like that. The aggression that Aztec have with this draft. Look, they've come into this one prepared. I said, you know, this was not going to be a pushover. The warm-up was there. Week number 1 for Mindfreak, or week number 2, technically speaking, up against the Xylophone dudes, a.k.a. Quick Match Warriors from last season. That was their warm-up. They're back into the thick of things right now. Aztec have started the season off strong, and there are going to be some growing pains here for Mindfreak with those role swaps, with that new player in Mad Hacks. It's a case of, you know, how quickly can they respond to this, and can Aztec beat them whilst they're down?
Well, Aztec as well, they had one of the biggest upheavals in terms of roster swaps as well. I mean, they've got Shrek now from Downfall, Superfish from Kiln Warriors, and Altivian from Crimson. So they've taken a lot of members from other teams in order to really give themselves what they think will be the super roster going into this phase 2.
Hook is there. It's going to go into Doubt, who gets dropped extremely low. The shield is burnt off it very, very quickly. And this is really playing into the idea of what Mindfreak won. Isolate a target. If they can't kill you, the slow, more methodical play where we can dictate the pace, especially around John on his Jaina. That favors us, the root lands once again. And that's going to be enough control for Mindfreak to get a dragon.
It will, and I saw Altivian trying to run up and get the interrupt, but he was just a moment late. Azog will also fall in the bottom lane, so Mindfreak coming out with some pressure of their own. They are low, but there just wasn't enough pulling power with Altivian being brought mid.
Well, Mindfreak have a much better opportunity now to come back into this game as a result of finding that pick, and then Ryu collapse into the bottom lane as we imagined, sacrificing the ability for the 5v4. Making things work in their favor. The Dragon is going to do the business in the middle lane and respectively put pressure in the bottom lane. That's really where Mindfreak need to get that pressure. Not really too concerned about winning that top lane matchup. It's about controlling this bottom lane, so the strong foreman that Aztec has isn't as prevalent.
It isn't, but already the experience is starting to really equalize a little bit for Mindfreak now by taking out those front walls. It does give them that experience.
They got one target. There's the cleanse. Nature's Cure coming in clutch, but it's just so much raw damage. There's nothing that John on Jaina can do to survive through all of that. Not until at least level 10 as Superfish rocks up for a very late aggressive gank. Not going to have Tahaka there to respond towards it, but regardless, that's going to give them enough pressure to comfortably go for this giant camp. And depending on how they want to play this, you know, look for more.
You can also tell Altivian he managed to complete his Echo of the Elements quest quite early into that, so he does have a little bit of that damage potential going on, so gaining 2 charges of that Chain Lightning, which will really help. But you can see, Skimmy, it's all about the stun that lands. Altivian rocked up from the flanks, he managed to land the stun onto John, and that's all they needed. That slight moment of opportunity. Nature's Cure wasn't even able to come into effect.
Yes, you can see I was talking about Phoenix and his synergy with slows at level 7, combat advantage. Plasma Cutter, that's his Q ability, the big circle you see him spam around himself, does 40% more damage to slowed targets. So when they find a member and they lock you in place, watch Doubt and just how much he's able to actually output on that one. They do go for the Giants. They don't get as much value as they could have done with it, because now they have the Night Camp 2. They're going to try and push this one in and utilize that spell armor, but the way they postured only allows them to get a tower with what? How much of 66 health left? The old classic Vandy, you'd sneeze it, fall over.
I love it, Skimmy. It's just bringing me back to some good memories, but Mindfreak also able to do a nice defense. So yes, we did see Aztec manage to get the kill, but what structural advantage were they able to get? Not really much.
Well, level 10 for both of these teams now, and as we imagined, the Earthquake is available for them. Same with the 7-sided strike. So the real big major game plan for Aztec is to do much of what they've done already, but also now have the ability to try and find a target, catch them out, and yeah, just go for that 7-sided strike to blow them up. Switching over to the side of Mindfreak, though, they have gone for the Tranquility. So important to make sure that somebody does not die as
in the middle
jumps in. He gets the egg strike, and that's going to be the very first kill for them in response. The salvo finds damage onto 2, but Vanilla had his number, locking him in place. Aztech, they may have a composition which commands threat, but isolated on its own. That's where Mindfreak can turn things around.
Absolutely. That's the strength of Mindfreak and how they've drafted. If they do catch you alone, as you see with Altivian, it's just going to be a bad time. Enough damage out. We did see Doubt manage to try and salvage what he could. He did fire off the salvo and was forced to warp out. That's all she wrote. But now the counter gank, and there you go. The tranquility, it didn't even matter. Mad Hacks is gone, Skimmy.
Yeah, that's a fantastic play by Aztech to really collapse and get the kill before Iceblock is available. But the response is there once again, and a double response as 2 kills are picked up here by Fat94. Going for the hook, followed by the drag and a triple kill, showing the pure class that Mindfreak have in the face of adversity.
That was a fantastic flip on the side of Mindfreak right there. And we've got that replay. You guys can watch it all unfold as well. And Skimmy, it just looked so good. But once you take away that front line, you can already see Doubt. He's like, well, what do? I still can't finish off the Jaina. Yes, I can deal that damage, but now I've got Fat94. He's just glaring at me and I'm dead.
Yeah, and the replay really highlights that fact of, you know, how strong they are as this big unit, but isolated on their own, the jigsaw puzzle does not look anywhere near as attractive. And this is going to be the weakness for Aztec in terms of how do they handle a situation where they're put back. You know, they've been up against Crimson. They were able to take a game. They're drafting fantastically. They have the ability to definitely turn things around, but for the first time in this game, they are slightly falling behind. The kills have now been surpassed by Mindfreak, and they're going to find themselves with those classic small increments of XP advantages that really start to get out of hand.
That's pretty much the Mindfreak special coming on out there. They can sometimes be slow starters, but they always find a way to turn around in mid. Lots of damage coming out now, and Fat94 is dropping Skinny.
That's the combo, and you find it right there, and now it's going to be Aztec just turning things around. Everybody jumping into the bunker, everybody getting 25 armor, everybody looking to put some damage onto Mindfreak, but they can only find one. And one is all it's going to take there. You can just see Fat94, if he's looking for those hooks, if he gets a little bit too aggressive, bam, he's taken out for free. Condemn, Bless Shield, you name it, they've got it. And 7-sided strike will finish the deal. So the rotation is there, and by no means rest to get out of this one.
Now, Mindfreak, though, only managing to lose one member, still plays quite well for them. They were able to disengage and keep 4 members alive. Skimmy, that is damn impressive.
Impressive indeed, as we're going to see both teams respectively pick up their shrines. And a bit of a delay is going to take place here. This is a bit of an old school ANZ classic, the old Dragonshire. A true test of actually, you know, how strong, how cohesive you are as a unit. Do you have the communication down to a fine art? How is your shot calling? How is your ability to rotate and test your sort of game knowledge without that wandering eye 24/7 on your tail?
Oh, and a big invade now coming up by Aztec.
There's the Brushstalker as well. Ree's just jumping straight on in. A 7-sided strike onto 3 members as the Blessed Shielders look to be used to try and buy themselves some disengaged potential. But there's the salvo onto multiple members, but no slows and no damage amplification as Superfish coming for the flank just cannot find a window or a space or a chance to engage like he'd want to.
It's just going to be rough. You could really see they thought that they had the advantage trying to go in there. It seems like they would. I mean, you've also got John. He opted to go for the water elemental. That also signifies that they do always want to isolate that one target. He's not going to try and land those big ring of frost. He's saying that's fine. That would have been a great spot to try and load it, chokes like that. But you can see the water element is having the desired effect.
Ryu is looking for it. The warp is fantastic because that was a sitting duck looking to be taken out of water. But now, as a result of that, the pressure is lost. And the Dragon is picked up for the second time here for Mindfreak, who are now well on their way to securing themselves level 16 first. A 1-level lead. The commanding pressure, a shaky early game, is now being patched by a far stronger, more decisive mid to late game. As they're going to go for the fault in mid lane, and they're now going to transcend that advantage into the bottom lane, pushing to expose the keep to create themselves a win advantage and to create themselves that condition where they can pick up giants, pick up night camps, and just go for the end.
John as well, he's just trying to get a couple of bits of damage as well, just poke down that front wall and just really supplement Ryu in that Dragon Knight.
Vino's positioning as well on that flank and that brush. Fantastic. Isolating the fact that Superfish was looking for that flank. Yes, it would have been a talent tier down for Aztec, but if they could find a member down and make it a 4v5 situation whilst the Haku's locked up in this Dragon, it would have been a good situation. But without them finding a pick, it's looking like this dragon is going to get a lot of damage done to this keep.
That'd be very ideal. You can see all the members of Mindfreak as well. They're just posturing around Fat 94, hoping that he can land that one hook. They don't want to take that straight up engagement. That's why the Dragon Knight, Ryu in it, was the only one safely wailing on that keep. They knew if they tried to collapse Aztech, they would have wanted to force a fight there. Even though, Skimmy, they are down that talent tier, it still would have been a good place for them to fight with that Dragon Knight as well, going quite low. And it just takes that one pick, Skimmy, which we know that Aztech have. We've seen them use that blow potential.
I mean, their composition is definitely going to be able to find those picks regardless of their talent tier. They do hit level 16 now, which is a big power spike for multiple members on that team. But spinning it around to a talking point of contest 4 was, Mad Hacks didn't have that ice block, and he was able to be taken out very, very quickly. Does have that now at level 13. John well on his way to hitting the threshold needed to get ice block himself, sitting at 13,000 damage done. Needs 15,000 to complete that himself, so keep an eye on how much damage he can get done in this next engage, because then it's a massive power spike for him in his own respective right.
Huge power spike. He'll be able to play a little bit more aggressive. But speaking of aggressive, Azog is right in there. Ice block already been forced out by Mad Hacks.
Ice block used. Purification Server going to find a lot of value there, but Tranquility keeping his members topped on up. Now it's time to turn things around. Will the Moonfire find some regrowth value? Yes, it will, because there's one kill. And can Vanilla find more? The X-Strike does enough to start things off with, but the lack of sustained damage, the burst potential really coming through as Vanilla jumps on through with one Swift Strike after another. The Reflect ensuring that he does not fall down, surviving at 350 as another triple kill was picked up here by the boys in blue, and Fat 94 is going fishing, but the Iron Skin is the immediate response.
It's just unfortunate to see as well for Aztec. You can see their composition, but there's just not enough damage to seal the deal. That's just that one kill that they need. And because Mindfreak are so easy able to then kite away, they're able to then pop the Tranquility, heal up, and then flip the switch completely. So they're not really playing aggressive Mindfreak unless they get that hook. They're just really playing on the defense and just counter-engaging, which is really nice to see. And really where I think Aztec are going wrong, Skimmy, is just that one ranged hero. You can already see Doubt, he's trying to pump out the damage as much as he can, but you've just got old Tivian where he's just getting stunned and pretty much just zoned off by the water element. He's like, well, what am I going to do? Yeah,
it's a tough situation when their comp is set to get in there, find a pick, and turn the tide of the fight around with a bunker and a well-placed time. But they haven't been able to find a situation where that can actually happen as cleanly as they would like. And the turnaround potential, especially from Mindfreak, has always been there. They now have a Night Camp that's going to give everybody here 20 spell armor and a dragon. Once again, Ryu in that one as the Harker, so he's going to finish what he started. That's going to be a keep falling on down. The hook is there. Shrek does manage to get himself out of harm's way, and this is a bit of a do or die moment. They need to try and force a fight whilst he's locked in place. Dad gets kicked away. Johanna the first to fall, but a response with Stitches going down as well. The bunker going to find some value. Oh, Tivian is low, but not low enough, as he is going to be the next member to fall on down as Jet Propulsion gets doubly punted away. And the question is now, Mindfreak, do they look for the core? They definitely should, because they have level 20 and still a healthy Dragon Knight, Vandy.
Yep, they're going on it. They're going to start the core now, and as you said, no reason why they shouldn't. The numbers disadvantage is definitely on Aztec's side.
Core is going to fall on down. It doesn't look like there's much that they can do unless they can find a last-minute pick. These cooldowns, these heroics aren't up for another 15 seconds. That core is going to fall on down. It's going to 6, it's going to 2, and that's going to be GG, opening up things on the scoreboard 16 minutes in, with Mindfreak taking a 1-0.
They were a slow starter in this game, Skimmy. I tell you what, Aztec were definitely giving them a run for their money. But the thing that we know about Mindfreak, it's okay if we slow start. Really where we start to shine is once we hit that all-important level 10. The mid to late is where it's all about. And it was just really clear decision-making after that. Yeah, we let a couple of kills go. No worries. We've got bigger things inside.
Yeah, it was a scary early game. But in the end, you know, the sheer class and determination that we've come to know from this team managed to shine on through. Aztec had a very, very strong composition, but I suppose the growing pains really in their own side were they weren't able to find that mid game. They weren't able to sort of move that advantage from the early game, bring that momentum forward into the mid game, and just try and continue to bring the pressure and the pain. And, you know, Mindfreak in the end of that draft adapted quite well with the Stitches as well as the Tahaka to say, look, we know what you're looking to achieve. We're going to break that completely up. Finding a hook, finding a Brush Stalker in, and turning things around. So
yeah,
the result that I think we all expected, and coming into game number 2, we're going to have to wait to see exactly what they have planned in mind for that one. But we're going to jump to a very quick break, 3 minutes on the dot. We'll see you back here, game number 2.